Hello, I'm Chris from Riverhorse, and today I'm going to be interviewing another one of our authors for the Tails of Equestria adventures. This week it will be Lou Anders, who wrote Shipshape and A Piece of Cake for the Curious Case of the Malfunctioning Prancer and Other Tales. Lou, how are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. Great to be here.
I see we've only got one of the two-person team that wrote these adventures with us today.
Yes, my 10-year-old daughter co-wrote them with me and is quite indignant that she is not here, but she is in school right now.
Oh, well, there you go. So, do you play any tabletop role-playing games?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Right now I'm running two Dungeons & Dragons 5e campaigns. One in the Forgotten Realms. We're going through Storm King's Thunder. And then there's an outfit called Cobalt Press that publishes their own world, the world of Midgard. And we have a second campaign going in Midgard. Before that, I played the Fate core system. And my daughter and I are trading off running Tails of Equestria.
Okay. It's interesting. So it's kind of a shared world thing.
Well, she took us through the introductory adventure in the original rule book, the Pet Predicament.
Yeah.
And she ran it, and then I am running Curse of the Statuettes, and we're almost to the end. Okay. And I've gotten the Festival of Lights to run after that.
Yeah.
But she's getting antsy to be the GM again. So especially now that we have a screen. And so I think after that, I'll hand the duties back over and she'll run the games.
Okay. So are you running the adventures in order, or do you plan to deviate on into your own inventions?
Ooh, that's a good question. We're really looking forward to running the ones we wrote.
Yeah.
And when we get to that, I'll let her run it, and I'll just pretend I don't know anything. We've got two other people. One of her friends and her friend's father are our other players.
Okay.
So I'll let them drive the bus on those adventures, and I'll just hang back and provide assistance.
Dare I ask what your characters are called?
Ooh, called. I'm playing an Earth Pony,
Okay.
and I completely blanked on the name. Because you had. And she is playing the Changeling character.
Oh, yeah. It's
Which,
from the Bestiary of Equestria, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So, when did you first start playing role-playing games?
Well, I started with the original box set for Dungeons & Dragons back in the 80s.
The red box.
The red box. And my parents got me that, and about 6 months into it, the Satanic Panic hit our church, and they said, "Should you be playing that game?" And I said, "Oh, too late now. I'm hooked. You bought it for me, so I'm not stopping." And back then I played everything TSR put out. You know, Star Frontiers, Gangbusters, Top Secret, all of their games, Boot Hill, Gamma World.
I assume what you're glancing at there is just a bookshelf full of. I will go on tour.
Some of the original. Can you see?
Oh wow! Yeah, some real artifacts in there.
The original shelf and the current shelves. But I got heavily into Call of Cthulhu. Played that. Pretty much quit role-playing games when I got a driver's license. Didn't play again until after college. Got very heavy into the short-lived the Honor Majesty's Secret Service, the James Bond role-playing game from Victory.
Right. Never heard of that. I'll have to look it up.
It was a tremendous game. It came out, had a ton of product for it, only lasted a couple years, and then they lost the license and it disappeared.
Oh,
but it's the first time I ever encountered the concept of fate points or bennies or inspiration or whatever you want to call the bonus you get on your die rolls.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it was in another system before, but it's the first time I ever saw that implemented in a role-playing game, and it was fabulous. And then some years ago, I hadn't played in years, and I became very interested I was working as an editor at the way that my fantasy writers who also role played or worked in the role playing game industry tended to be, I thought, more inventive than those who didn't.
Right.
And so I started reading campaign books again, and that got me hooked. And then when 5e came out, I came back.
Okay, so veteran role player. So I think we skipped ahead at the start for my next question, which is, have you played Tails of Equestria? So I think we can probably settle that one. So how long have you been a My Little Pony fan? I'm going to guess not as long as you've been playing role-playing games.
Probably not as long. I did a book event in Houston, Texas back in 2014 called Tween Reads Festival. And one of the panelists there with me was M.A. Larson. And a little boy in the audience said, "Excuse me, are you the same M.A. Larson that writes for My Little Pony?" And he said, "Yes, I am." And the kid's head exploded. And
that story took a dark twist.
Yeah, it didn't. And then several other children's heads exploded. And that's when I learned what a brony was. Right. And then we saw my daughter started pulling me into My Little Pony, and we started watching it together. And I was really taken with the complexity of the mythology. And I think, and then I got downright jealous of Timberwolves. I wish I had come up with that.
Yeah.
and so at first I was like, okay, I'm only going to watch the episodes with Discord in it because I like John Delancey. Yeah. And then I got very wrapped up in Starlight Glimmer's story arc, and for a while she was my favorite character, and now Alex has taken it upon herself to Alex, my daughter, to educate me on all the key moments that I need to watch. So she'll say, "I think you need to see this story arc," or "You don't need to bother with this, but you need to follow this character so you know what's going to happen here." And so I've watched quite a lot of My Little Pony.
I see. So, when did you start on your path to becoming a writer?
Well, it's kind of a circuitous path, as a lot of writers are. I tried writing when I was younger. I sent short stories off to science fiction fantasy magazines. I got form rejection letters like everyone. Then I ended up moving out to Los Angeles and becoming a journalist for Titan Publications for their original Star Trek Monthly magazine. Right. And I spent 5 years out in L.A. Hanging out on the sets of Star Trek shows and Babylon 5 and talking to the cast and crew and writing about it. And I did that for years. And then I got hired to, I freelanced edited for a while after that. And then I got hired to build a mid-sized science fiction publishing imprint. And I did that for 10 years. And when I was out in LA, I used to write scripts with a partner. And we never had anything made, but we had a lot of stuff optioned. Right. And I always kind of wanted to get back to writing. And this is going to sound really funny, but when Muppets Most Wanted came out, yeah, I was watching that, and Kermit the Frog is a fellow Southerner like myself. He's from the swamps of probably Louisiana or somewhere. He went out to California with the dream of entertaining people, but along the way he meets all these other Muppets, and he ends up being kind of the MC of the Muppet Show. And by the time of the short-lived Muppets Tonight, he's just Lorne Michaels on Saturday Night Live. He's just the guy in the office answering the phone. He's not even the Muppet on stage, Cliff, introducing the show. He's been completely pushed to a producer role with no creative input. And in the Muppet movies, they don't even star him anymore. And they got this Muppet Walter we've never heard of as the star of the Muppets. Where's Kermit? He hasn't starred in a Muppet movie in years. And when Muppets Most Wanted comes out, Kermit stars in it again. He's gotten back to what it is that makes him who he wanted to be to begin with. And I watched that and I thought, there's a lot of parallels between me and that frog. I'm making everybody else's dreams come true and I've forgotten my own. And I sat down to write and I started writing children's books and I quit my day job. And that was, first book came out in 2014. I quit the day job in 2016.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's my frog-inspired journey.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you say was your writing process and also Alex's writing process?
All right. My writing process, for games specifically or for anything?
Oh, good question. I think for games specifically first, and then maybe we'll branch out.
All right. For games specifically, I think that my writing process is to try and break what needs to happen into understandable chunks. You know, from the setup or the MacGuffin that kicks off the story to where we're going to go to what we need to do and how it's going to resolve, and to try and deal with it in discrete packets so I don't feel overwhelmed. And Alex's process is to push me off my keyboard, tell me to leave her alone, and type furiously. While I say, don't hit the key so hard. You don't have to hit the key so hard.
Oh,
you don't have to hit the key so hard. Bam. And then she says, there, it's perfect. Don't touch it. And I say, no, it's not perfect yet. We have to work on it. No, we don't. And we argue back and forth. And when she goes to bed, I go in and fix things. And the next morning she says, why did you change that? And it's a very, it's proving to be a very dynamic relationship.
Yeah. High energy.
Yes. But she was already, in fairness, she was already helping me with some of my stories. I have a book coming out next year that is coincidentally about unicorns.
Right.
And it hasn't been announced yet, but she gave me one of the major set pieces for the final battle of the book. And she also created a monster in it that they fight. And she came up with the monster, how the monster was defeated, and drew a picture of the monster. And that completely went in. And she's been
budding illustrator as well.
She's been reading and critiquing my stuff for a while and inputting into it. So she's got her fingerprint all over my books.
So, do you have any tips for people creating characters for Tails of Equestria games? Kind of a way to build a character that fits into the world, but it's still your own.
Interesting. I think in characters in general, a good character, because it's so interesting, because in fiction writing, the character needs to be essential to the plot. If the main character, the protagonist, could be anybody, then the protagonist doesn't matter. So you have to say, why is this story happening to this person? I mean, Harry Potter. Why Harry Potter? How does he fit into the plot? And a good character is someone who wants something desperately and can't have it. One of the reasons Harry Potter is so successful is that he wants a family. And there are a lot of characters in fiction who don't have families. But it's not that he just doesn't have a family. It's not that he's an orphan. It's not that he's growing up alone in an orphanage. He's literally in the middle of the worst family in Britain. They treat him, they make him live under the stairs. They give him old socks for his birthday, and he's the puppy dog in the window looking in as they eat their cake and laugh and stuff. And he's not allowed any of it. So he's in the midst of a family which will not accept him. And in role-playing games, you create everything but the character. The player brings the character.
Yeah.
So this tying the character into the narrative is impossible because you don't know what the character is going to be. You give him the shell of the adventure, and any character could literally go into it. So it's the exact opposite of when you create a fictional story. I still think a good character is someone with a strong need or desire. But in the case of a game where you don't know what that's going to be, because you don't know what the adventure you're going to put that character in is, then I think you have to come up with a generality. Like, I play an Earth Pony. The Earth Pony really wants to help people. The Earth Pony wants to be there and lend his strength to his friends. And so that's why I like Earth Ponies.
Yeah.
And I think that, a unicorn like Twilight Sparkle might be very, very interested in just learning how magic happens. And that's what drives that character, wanting to know everything about magic and how to apply magic to friendship. So I still think coming up with the pony's overarching desire, overarching drive, need, or want is a good idea when you sit down to create a character.
So sort of tying that that want into an aspect of the story that you know is going to be there, but you don't know what form it will take.
Right.
So, for example, you know there's going to be magic because there's going to be friendship, and friendship is magic. So, if you have an interest in magic, they're the same thing. Then
space-time.
You know it's going to come up, so you know that you can latch onto a part of the story and be taken along with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, what kind of things would you like to see in Tails of Equestria in the future?
Ooh. Well, I'm really enjoying Curse of Statuettes. I love the Indiana Jones daring do scope of it. And I like that world hopping. So I'd love more world hopping adventures that take us all over Equestria. Depending on your freedom to do so, I would love to go to more places we have not seen on the television show.
Yeah.
And also, my daughter has become a very typical game master already. She has spent her half of the fee for writing the adventures on My Little Pony playsets. So just for our games, because she has tons of the 4-inch figures, but we play with the 1.5-inch tall figures.
Right.
So she's been on a spending spree buying all the now out of print and expensive sets for that. So I'd like something that took place exclusively in Ponyville, because we now have a lot of toys that we need to apply.
I don't know if you've seen, but we're actually doing, the standee set?
Oh, yeah, I can't wait for those.
Yeah.
Cannot wait for those. That's October? Is that right?
Oh, something like that. It's not my department.
Yeah. Well, I think we've already pre-ordered them.
There you go. Lots of monsters in there. So it's the exploration side of things is that's the hook for you.
I think so. It is the exact opposite of My Little Pony, but the Mask of Nyarlathotep from Call of Cthulhu was the first world-hopping RPG I ever encountered, and it blew my mind at the time, because before then, most of the role-playing games I saw were, here's a cave, go explore it. Here's a dungeon, go explore it. The idea that there was a larger story and you might leave one location and go somewhere else, a la Indiana Jones or Bond, it blew my mind. And so I still love globe-trotting, world-spanning adventures.
Yeah, it always makes me think of Tintin, because Tintin would be thrown into the heart of every kind of. Tintin
is probably a much better analog than Tails of Equestria.
Okay, well, thanks very much. It's been great fun talking to you, and I really enjoy getting to speak to the creatives behind the Tails of Equestria franchise. It's always sort of illuminating to see the different ways in which you all approach, what is never a very similar task. But the task is always seems similar at the start, and by the time it's at the end, it's always vastly different.
Absolutely. Well, we love the franchise, and we had a blast writing in the game.
Well, I hope to see more from you.
I think we'll both be up for it.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for watching our video. If you'd like to learn more, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also like and subscribe to be told when we've released new videos.